sector. Vince, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, Igor, thank you so much. Always a pleasure. So basically, first I would like to congratulate the previous speaker. I think she has done a lot of my job by defining what is a fintech. And basically, I cannot be more agree on the conclusion in terms of how do you bring the underbanked to be banked. She has given some interesting examples, the AppShield, but there is one which is even more impressive for me, which is WorldRemit, which is also run by Somali founders. I think there are two founders who recently bought Sendwave for 500 million and which has put on the market incredible APIs. So the example that is always given is always the same. It's always about M-Pesa. And we will never deny that what M-Pesa meant in terms of learning curve for all the fintechs. But don't forget that M-Pesa is before everything a product coming from the telco industry and basically has been designed by Safaricom to, in fact, give a very simple access, a very simple channel to access mobile money. But for me, the most impressive case I've seen, it was in Hargeisa, where a country went to war and the National Bank even disappeared. The currency was completely dead, the shilling, and the population took over completely with mobile money. So in Hargeisa, it's even difficult to find cash. Another country that really has blown me up in terms of the success of the fintech is Zimbabwe, where, as you know, the money had a big problem of inflation. And basically, cassava has really created something which is incredible. At the point that when I was in Zimbabwe 2 years ago, it was even hard to find an ATM machine. It was all mobile money. And the verticals are very developed. What I call the vertical is not only the payment, but also the education, the logistic companies who are behind it, health companies. So that was really amazing for me. So my item is about the strategy. How does we create a strategy for the continent? And for sure, I can only discuss this versus my point of view. And we are only in 2 countries in Africa, mainly in Ethiopia. And today we have started in Guinea-Conakry. So it's a limited experience. But the good thing about Belcash, and I would like to remind that Belcash is the company and HelloCash is the brand, is that we have been in a very tough environment in the last 7 years, I would say, in Addis, which has really changed recently. And basically, some of the questions I saw popping up was about phones. Does people have a phone? So the first thing that we have been looking to was how do you channel? How do you make sure that people can access? And if people have a feature phone, a basic $10 phone, you have 2 major channels that they can access is voice, and the second one is USSD. And the most popular one is USSD, which is basically that the back end is at the level of the telco, and every phone allows USSD. And that is a way, the natural way to top up if you have a voucher. IVR is a little bit more complicated in terms of development, but it allows you to integrate from the start biometrics, which means that you could recognize a person in terms of the pattern of his voice. After that, we had developed these 2 channels. We went for 3 other channels. And the third one was an app, a little bit like what everybody is doing. And then we made sure that there was also a web platform, basically for the merchants and for the agents, that allowed, in fact, also to upload files and to make bulk transfers. And recently, we have experimented a very interesting approach, which is based on integrating bots in existing channels, which means that in that case, in our case, it is a Telegram. We are no more on the lowest level of the telco, but we are on another layer who already brings us customers. Because if you are on Telegram, there is 600–700 million subscribers, and in Ethiopia, Telegram is the most used chat. and people are really using more and more time on the chat. So one of the things we are looking into is how can we build, in partnership with the existing wallets, a kind of Pan-African wallet based on the phone number. Don't forget that when PayPal was created, PayPal was basically created on an email based, because people were on their laptop, people were basically on their desktop and not on their phone. So the identifier was at that time basically the email. But today we can have a way more interesting identifier, which is in fact the phone number that is also used on your chat, that is used on your phone, that is used on your mobile money. So you can do so much by using the phone number once you want to make extremely simple the way people can access. And then if you start using what they commonly use, which is a chat, and you build the conversational payment systems behind it, it gives you a completely different approach, where basically they can order, they can even open an account. Ethiopia has really shocked us last year when they came with a new proclamation where you could open an account in a bank, an account for less than $100, like a mini wallet, and you could eventually invite a friend and open an account for him, which is very, very unique, I think, in this African context. So one of the things that we have been confronted in the past year was very much a regulation that has changed drastically in the last years. And I think the African authorities in the national banks, central banks should really think about making it easier and easier. When Kenya came with the concept of mobile money, it's clear that it was very much central bank who has helped to make that a reality by allowing it to be piloted, and then lesson learned, coming with a regulation. And I think that is the way that every African country should go, to not block the innovation through the regulation. We cannot have the same regulatory frame that countries who have a very old banking system, and probably which are very much based on standard banking. But the integration now that we see in terms of mobile money with regular banking, I mean, behind the mobile money, more and more people start to put a debit card. The debit card is linked to the switches are linked to the ATM, to the POS. The loans also come from regular banking. If I take a case like Mshwari in Kenya, it's basically NCBA, which has a partnership with M-Pesa, who allows to give this little loans, payday loans, meso loans to the population. So channeling for me is the first thing. Make sure that people can open an account, that it's very easy, and then integrate this this basic solution with the standard way to do banking. One of the things we should not forget is when we channel information, it's not only about the end user. So let me give you an example. My team and myself, we have been working recently on a case about livestock. So basically, we had to build a sensor for camels and cattle, so that sensor was allowing to identify the temperature of the animal. It needed a battery which could sustain at least 10, 20 years. It needed to go through LoRi, a low end of internet. The data should be very limited, but that was allowing, in fact, to make these animals bankable. Because in Africa, if I take somebody which is in the pastoral area, and basically that person has 20 camels or 10 camels with $2,000 each, he has an asset of $20,000. But when you go to the bank, he cannot get a loan. At the moment, we can clearly, as a fintech, identify the animal, where he is, what is his condition. And we had also to make some interesting add-ons, like that if he dies and he's eaten by another animal, that we make sure that it's not confused in terms of temperature and so on. So Internet of Things can also be using it to channel information, to make sure that we make more and more available the data in terms of making things bankable. It's not only having a bank account, but also everything which can be the collateral, which can be used to give loans. So now let me go to the second point, which is the core of banking, not the core of fintechs, but the core of banking, which is loans. So basically a bank is a trust. A bank will receive money, deposits, and from the deposit, we will generate loans, and the interest rate between both is different, which allow the banks, in fact, to be profitable. So in the beginning, a lot of people thought that lending to the underbanked was absolutely a waste of time, a waste of money. But what we have discovered is that this payday loans, there's very little loans given to people who need a loan for a day. Maybe they get $20 and then they buy some chicken with it, they roast it and they resell it, end of the day, they put the money back. Has a return of investment, which is way higher, in fact, than the traditional way to lend money. That it is by buying your car and using the car as a collateral. So that is really something that the banks now rethinking in terms of how do you, and with the fintechs, basically give loans to people who don't really have a track record in terms of data. But with big data, we can get enough information to find out which population, like maybe women are more reliable, maybe young people are less. I mean, this depends on the context, and then start to provide them this microloans and working capital for little businesses. Africa is really about million and million of people who have a little business, and these little businesses, SMEs, MEs, should really get encouraged and can boost the African economy. So that is really about rethinking how loans are dispersed, to where we are lending and how we are lending. And then I come to the third part of my presentation, which is also how do you build a cross-boundary African wallet? When you look to the boundaries in the African countries, very often you find that populations on both sides of countries. In Ethiopia, you will find the people of Gambela are very similar to the people of Sudan. If you go to the south, people have family in Kenya. If I go to the Somali area of Ethiopia, you will find people who are in Hargeisa, people who are in Mogadishu, people who are even in Kenya. So I think we need to rethink the process in terms of how we can make sure that people can start in fact, trading between this nation in the most efficient way. That will also avoid that we're going to buy products from Kenya in London when we are based in Addis. That doesn't make any sense. And fintechs should come with solutions to allow it. And you can use, in fact, a lot of solutions who are already available, like CyberSource from Visa and some other major players who really have the infrastructure, and after that create dedicated solutions for specific communities. In our case, it's interesting also to notice that we have built an e-commerce platform on top of our payment platform. And that e-commerce platform basically have today 1,500 small enterprises who put their product in our warehouse. And then we put a markup on it. And based on that, we make sure that the logistic part is handled by the post. We handle the payment, we handle the description of the product, we handle the warehouse part, and the logistic indirectly. But my point is that it's not so complicated to do. It's all about APIs. Like if I want to go on the international market today, the only thing I have to do, in fact, is to add an API from DHL. I get the pricing out of it, and DHL will handle for me the last mile in terms of shipping it to the US or to other countries. So the API economy is more and more what is going to be the center of all these fintech solutions. And to give you another example, in case that we want to use biometrics, it's pretty easy. You just can buy an API and it can be transaction based, and you can start now to have biometrics on facial recognition. You don't need to build everything yourself. And when you get enough volume, probably you will start to think about having your own internal solution. So last and not least, how does we come to the rural areas? So that seems to be still a problem. When we speak about Kenya, Kenya has more than 50% of its population today, which is in cities. But if I take Ethiopia, we still have 80 to 90% of our population, which is in the rural area. So we tried to find solutions for that. And we came basically with what we call a smart kiosk. And then the first issue was absolutely not connectivity, because the country is covered at 90%. And with the arrival of Safaricom that we welcome and probably others, we really are confident that the connectivity will be there and the pricing will be competitive. But the second issue was energy. So we made sure that every kiosk has energy. And then that kiosk, we basically integrated the Wi-Fi. We made sure that people around the kiosk could access information. And that this kiosk has 4 major pillars. So one, it deserves the rural population in terms of, number one, being what we call a branch in a box. So you can open an account, you can close an account, you can transfer money, you can receive remittance, you can send money, you can pay your bills. So basically all the basic features that you have in a bank, but you can also ask for a loan. And the interesting thing, in our case, it's a franchise model, and the person who is running the kiosk is a person from that village. So who knows who is who in that area. So that helps in terms of KYC and so on. And then you have a second layer, which is really e-commerce. People can, when they're around the kiosk, they visualize the new products. Just like if you enter in an hotel and you enter your room, you can immediately see what are the services available, the menu, and so on. And based on that, people can, at that moment, see what are the products. And the products, by the way, are linked to the IP address of that kiosk. And it will be, I would say, most of the time, we make sure that the products are fully compatible with the needs of these populations. So that is the second thing, giving them access to the market. And we hope that in a second phase, we will be able to go even for them to be able to sell. And then you have the third layer of that kiosk, and that third layer is basically everything which has to make with, it's basically everything which has to make with connectivity. So you can get a SIM card, you can buy airtime, you can even apply to get a smartphone, a cheap one that you can have on a pay as you go. And then the last layer is basically entertainment. And when you speak about entertainment, you speak about, you can download movies directly like a mini Netflix from each of the kiosks. You can make sure that that you are in a position basically that, how do you call it? You can give the village information or exchange information which is in adequation with their needs. We also made sure that the kiosk can be used to call a doctor. So we have a service that we call Hello Doctor. And if you want an advice, a medical advice, that is one of the options which is given to a kiosk. Now, the amazing thing is a kiosk like that one that we want to, at least we're going to start by Ethiopia with 15,000 kiosks because we have 15,000 districts. It's a mini hub where people are informed, where people can bank, where people can access connectivity, where people can start selling and buying products. So it's a digital distribution network. And we call it the Green Digital Initiative, which has been accepted by the administration. And we hope tomorrow that we will be able to expand this to other African countries. So to summarize a little bit is how do you build a network who can go as deep as possible, a digital network where the digital products are available. How are you able to get to use the easiest, how can I say, the easiest channel what people are using on a daily basis to make sure that they access their account, that they can buy products, sell products. I heard the previous speaker talking about the cost of the transaction are cheaper. I'm not 100% sure I agree with that. It depends in which country. But what is absolutely cheaper is the cost of implementation. That is way cheaper in terms of you don't need a heavy infrastructure like this kiosk. when we add a point of sale, start to be immediately an ATM machine. So a person who have a card can come, plug the card in the POS, say the amount you want to withdraw, and the young lady that you see will absolutely provide the cash. And it can also go both directions, as deposit or as withdrawal. So I think this summarizes a little bit what I want to share with you. More and more be busy with APIs. People are talking today about neo-banking. Neo-banking and agent banking, there's no big difference. The difference in neo-banking is that basically in the countries where neo-banking is very successful is because the database has a capacity, a national database who have the ID of the people can be accessed by the applications on demand of the consumer. And then we can remotely identify the person, which is a very strong asset. And when we speak about agent banking, basically we do that through an agent. But our solution could very, very easily, just like in India, move from agent banking to neo-banking. And I think that today the question about building strong value propositions in terms of a transaction taking place and making sure that this transaction could be very easily documented through blockchain capacity or others, and allowing, in fact, the different players in that value chain to optimize that process. It could be for crops, from fertilizers, seed, up to packaging and so on. And that is really, I think, where the fintechs are coming in. And the fintech industry is new. So that there was a lot of confusion in the beginning when we started to speak about fintechs, where it was in fact telcos were the mobile wallet. That we can consider that it is in the fintech part, but I think the fintechs, how they are now positioning ourselves as platforms who integrate or aggregate other platforms will be more and more relevant for the continent. Thank you, Igor.
Thank you so much, Vince. There are a couple of questions in the chat. If you please go there and then again use chat to answer, it will be super cool. And right now we're moving to our next phase in the event, which is going to be the panel discussion. It's going to be the topic is fintech startups to watch in Africa. I'm going to be your humble moderator. I would like to invite on stage kind of our speakers. We have Vince, who was just now given a keynote speech. We have Anis Kalel from Kayun, Yuri Matala from OVG Digital Solutions, Rebecca Mbula from Microsoft. Guys, let's start the cameras. Oh yeah, good to see you all. Thanks for being on time. Okay, so I think what we can do, we can start with a little bit of introduction from each of you. Let's limit ourselves not more than 1 minute. Quickly introduce yourselves. I think everyone apart from Vince. Vince already introduced himself. So should we start with alphabetical order? Anis, you go first.
Hey, how are you doing? It's good to see you again, Igor. Yeah, pleasure to meet you all. So my name is Anis. I'm the co-founder and CTO of Kayun. Tunisian. The company is based here in Tunis, and basically what we focus on is more along the lines of identification, eKYC, and decentralized payments. The goal is basically to look at the barriers to entry that exist in current systems and trying to basically add value by unlocking a new way of accessing the same level of services or better quality services. Yeah, happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Rebecca? You're on mute, sorry. You're on mute.
Oh, my apologies. Hi, how are you? So my name is Rebecca. I'm a program manager at Microsoft, and I focus my career mostly on tech, and I'm really an observer on the tech startup space in Kenya. So yes, I'm really glad to be here, learning and giving inputs.
Perfect. I hope not only Kenya, I hope it's also like East Africa, because we're going to be
Africa, yes.
Africa in general. Okay, this is the topic of today's session. Perfect. Yuri?
Yes.
Hello, everybody. I am also very pleased to take part in this conversation. I am business development management is a company. OO is a Dubai-based company. We developed such fintech products as a digital banking platform, as payment solution platform, eWallet, and microfinance management. So I'm very pleased to be here and hope that the discussion will be very useful and interesting for everybody.
All right, thank you so much everyone for the introductions. Let's kick off our discussion with the question on the future of cash. Where's it going? How's it going to be organized? How the fintech companies are working around cash? Is it still going to be big? Is it going to be smaller? Like, what's your thoughts on this one? Vince, do you want to start?
Yeah, I don't give any future to cash. I think cash is going to die extremely fast.
How fast?
I give it 5 to 10 years, but 10 years seems too much. I think in 5 years it's over. When I look to what's happening in Ethiopia, so let me talk about what I know. You see that the administration is putting less and less cash in the system. You see also that the banks have their mobile money. Basically, it can come from the core banking, there's their mobile money as agent banking, and then we get 3 telcos. And the expectations today is Safaricom on a phone, maybe Orange will come in, and MTN. There is no way that with this type of players, and knowing that we are coming to close to 100% of the population getting a phone, that cash has space. Because the problem of cash, I heard at the moment I am talking about a person can start at the moment to planify. But what is also very important is the back ends who are behind it. Because the back ends who are behind it, how more people are uneducated, how more you have sophisticated back end, in fact, in the back. And with this big data, the way the things are analyzed in terms of data and how you can access loans and how you can make sure that their products can be now in a value chain where they just need to be a piece of it, will make cash less and less attractive. So I really believe it. It will also come with consequences. Let's be clear. I'm not a fan that cash completely disappeared. We see parallel currencies popping up. I was born in a cash society and I love to have cash in my pocket. Unfortunately, when I was young, it didn't happen so often, but definitively, I do believe that cash will be that we are very, very fast going to a cashless society, not only in the developed countries, but also in the emerging nations. Thank you, Igor.
Thank you, Vince.